Hi folks, good morning, good afternoon. I am Akriti and today we're going to talk about Unit 10 of MGM 028, that is Participatory Online Media. This is video lecture number 1 on youth participation in online spaces, and we'll be talking about the next video lecture on participatory culture in the next lecture. So when we talk about participation in online media spaces, how do you think that came about? First, we'll talk about that. Now, participation in online spaces came about because of media convergence, a phenomena involving the interconnection of information and communications technologies, computer networks, and media content. That is, media convergence is composed of 3 C's: computing, communication, and content. Now, computing is the technological side of it, while communication and content, we'll be covering parts and bits of that in this particular video lecture, and some part of it in the next video lecture. Now, media convergence is also a direct consequence of the digitization of media content and the popularization of the internet. Therefore, internet plays the role in enabling a two-way communication, and we no longer have to follow a top-to-down approach when it comes to communication and media. So, all thanks to internet, participation amongst youth, amongst adults has been enabled due to the internet. Internet has also enabled us to formulate new textual experiences. Now, new textual experiences can be new kinds of genre, textual forms, entertainment, pleasure, patterns of media consumption in the form of computer games, simulations, special effects cinema, etc. Internet has also enabled new ways of representing the world, wherein new representational possibilities and experiences can be felt, and since we have different cultural backgrounds, so we look at it from a different perspective altogether. The examples of new ways of representing the world can be immersive virtual environments, screen-based multimedia, etc. The third enabler that internet has given us is a new relationship between subjects, that is users and consumers, and media technologies, as in how we use and receive image and communication media in everyday life, and the meanings that are being drawn across by those images and communication media along with the technologies and their meanings. The fourth aspect that internet has enabled are new experiences of the relationship between embodiment, identity, and community. Now, because of the advent of internet, there's a shift in personal and social experience of time, space, and place, which enables us to experience new things which we might not have dealt with when it comes to traditional media. Internet has also enabled us for new conceptions of the biological body's relationship to technological media, as in internet and online media spaces has challenged the distinction between human and the artificial, nature and technology, body and media as technological processes. Basically, the distinction between real and virtual. One of the key examples would be that of cyborgs. When we talk about cyborgs, they were not existing before digital media, and now that cyborgs have come into existence, it is completely blurred between what is a biological body and what is an artificial body, perhaps. Internet has also enabled new patterns of organization and production, wherein there are new realignments and integration in media culture. We talk about media convergence, divergence in media culture. The industry has reshuffled. The economy of the media has also changed quite evidently. And when we talk about access, ownership, control and regulation, there are also new patterns that have emerged because of online spaces and digital technologies. So in all, due to the discursive and hyper digitality of the internet, online spaces and online media such as social networking sites, email, instant messaging, online search engines, etc. are being viewed as sites of freedom and exploration among children, adults, and people belong to all kinds of sections in the society. However, there's a participation paradox when it comes to talking about participation in online spaces. Now the paradox is between networked individualism and sociability. That is, there's a debate between the agency to participate amongst the users and the structure that has been formulated to participate, that are the platforms. So when we have great opportunities to participate, it stands opposed to the political economy or profitability of transnational media organizations, which acts as a paradox. However, if we have the right tools in the form of media literacy, we'd be able to eradicate the differentiation between them, and we'd be able to look at it from a very clear perspective. When we talk about media literacy, access, evaluation and participation are the three dimensions of media literacy. However, apart from access and evaluation, participation or content creation, along with owning up to the agency to participate, especially amongst young users like you who are considered media multitaskers, who actively engage with the online spaces, contribute extensively, and there are also different sources to contribute. So participation becomes the major crux of media literacy at the end. It is also the ultimate form of participation. It is also the ultimate source of media literacy. When we talk about participation, we also talk about what users play a role and the kind of approach that we need to look at from. We need to look at from an active audience approach, and we also need to look at it from a user generated content approach, wherein you as users generate content and are also actively participating in the process. There's an increased diversity of participatory practices supported by an increased availability of technologies. Also, the specificity of user-generated content related to the modality of the internet, since there are various modes of the internet now, it enhances the intensification and massification of already existing participatory practices. That is, there were existing practices before, but since internet has a global reach and it is also instant, the intensification and massification of participation has also enhanced. And so is the user generated content along with. So there's a shift from active to passive, as you can see in the image along with, evident in the modality of the internet, which has gained popularity because of the instantaneous reach of the internet. User generated content also emphasizes that participation of digital media users in the production process of content is necessary. However, when we talk about participation in content production process, it is divided into two main sections. First is participation in society, and the second is participation in the media organization. When we look at it from the image, you can see participation in media organization is still very much in the middle of going from passive to active, because it is still lying between the media production lines. However, participation in society is what is actually the ultimate participatory practice that we need to imbibe in. And it is also extremely important for us to understand how you can participate in the society effectively. One of the few examples in the sphere of participation in society can be blogging, vlogging, creating webzines, internet radio, podcasting, digital storytelling, and wikiing. When we talk about digital participation, there are also 4 clusters of interactive media users which are been given by Jenkins and which flow from consumption to production. Now the 4 clusters range from being very basic to the extreme level. The first cluster is traditionalists who just browse the internet and use the internet to search information essentially. The second cluster is that of gamers who perform in the internet via digital gaming. The third cluster is that of networkers who interchange information and share knowledge across different groups on the platform. Therefore, they network and create relationships on the internet platform. The fourth cluster is the most important one, and that is that of producers who author content and they create content to publish on the platform. Based on the 4 clusters of producers, the 4 clusters of interactive media users, there's also a typology of young producers that is emerged. There are 3 in number. The first is casual. Now casual producers as such use photos and videos, and they produce only that. The planning process for casual producers is spontaneous and simple, and they do not really indulge into narrative and aesthetic values. They also use basic techniques and concepts for producing photographs and videos. The main motivation for them doing so is entertainment and to build a relationship with their peers. The second kind of producers are aspirational, who write content. They put up photographs, they put up videos, they are into graphic designing and drawing to a great extent. They plan their content moderately, but the narrative and aesthetic value is of importance to them because they're eager to learn, and in order to apply those new techniques and concepts, they produce such content. Their motivation for doing so is skill improvement and peer recognition. The third typology of young producers are experts. Now experts and aspirational producers are into the same kind of type of production, that is writing, photos, videos, graphic designing and drawing. However, the difference is between their planning and their values along with their motivation. While aspirational producers are into moderate planning, expert producers are into high planning, and they use narrative and aesthetic values to a great extent. They also use their encyclopedic knowledge with regard to the media and the technologies, and they use various techniques and concepts to produce the kind of information and content that they are. Their motivation is skill improvement along with putting up original content on the platforms. Now this was something about the producers as such, young producers specifically, but there are also two approaches to participation in online spaces. First is sociological approach and the second is political approach. For this particular video lecture, we'll be emphasizing on political approach extensively, while in the next video lecture, we'll focus on the sociological approach. However, the distinction is as such. When we talk about the sociological approach to participation is considered as taking part in particular social processes, and participation includes many types of human interaction in combination with interaction through texts and technologies. In this context, power is considered as a secondary concept. One of the key examples is that of James Carey on ritual model of communication in Communication as Culture. When we talk about the political approach, participation in online spaces here is considered as the equalization of power relations between privileged and non-privileged actors in formal as well as informal decision-making processes. Here, participation is an object of struggle, and that different ideological projects define different participatory intensities. Therefore, participation in online spaces, when it comes from the political approach, is a site of struggle and contestation. A key example of the political approach to participation is that of hegemony, wherein hegemony is considered a power struggle between the privileged and the non-privileged actors. When we talk about online participation and engagement, there are three elements to consider them from the political approach point of view. The first is public engagement. Now, the newness of the media enables young people to participate and engage with other users, other participants on the platform in a more public manner. There are 5 factors or perhaps characteristics to the public engagement. First, you as young users can link quickly, aggregate and share information from a vast number of sources. Second, you can also derive meaning from this jumble of information through commentary. Therefore, you can analyze information and critically look at it from the perspective of media literacy. The third public engagement aspect is that of spontaneously generating online discussion communities around any given piece of information. Now, this is of vital importance because unless you have discussion forums and communities on online media, you won't be able to have a discussion and participation effective one, that is. The fourth kind of public engagement is enabling discussion communities concerned with the particular issue to multiply and mutate in a rapid, self-replicating viral manner across the internet. This is done in order to improve the state of the world. Now, why so? Because unless the information that we are putting up on an online platform is reached to a wider audience in a more self-replicating manner, you won't be able to communicate the issues that you might face. And that is being done by bloggers on a day-to-day basis when they put up day web blogs. The second element of online participation engagement is civic engagement. Now, there's a direct relationship between personality of individuals and their engagement with public affairs. Public affairs would constitute to be political processes, social movements, academic activities, some of the few reasons why you as an individual participate on online platforms. Now, young users also develop social ties over the digital platform with other interested people to influence their engagement as well as their own. Therefore, online social media networks facilitate better participation in public affairs. The reason for this is the multimedia content, that is, you have oral, written as well as visual content which you can navigate through and participate effectively. There's also transmedia navigation where you have different kinds of media forms and different kinds of user generated content formats which enable you to participate more efficiently. You as young users can use these techniques to collaborate and associate well for civic engagement. The third element of participatory online platforms is that of participatory politics. Now, participatory politics is a significant dimension of the political life of young users. Why? Because it gives them greater control, voice, and potential influence over the issues that matter most in their lives. Participatory politics also enable a horizontal and non-hierarchical communication, delinking the top-to-down approach, especially for marginalized communities. And young users in this context are using online spaces for participatory politics, especially to portray their identity when it comes to queer, when it comes to black, people of color, etc. Now, when we talk about participatory politics, there are 5 characteristics to it when it comes to online spaces. First is access. Now, large portions of young people across racial and ethnic groups have access to internet, and they are using online spaces, online social media regularly to stay connected with their friends and families along with pursuing interest and their hobbies. Participatory politics is also an essential dimension of politics because before the emergence of digital spaces, participation in politics was a no-go for youth. But now when it comes to online spaces where they have the agency to participate and voice their opinion, it becomes an essential dimension in traditional politics, including even in a country like India. Participatory politics is an addition to an individual's engagement rather than an alternative to other forms of political participation, because online participation and offline participation in political sphere go hand in hand. Participatory politics also enable equitable distribution across different racial and ethnic groups because internet is a platform which is easy to access for all, and it is also free to use, therefore equitably distributed across different groups. The fifth element is that of participatory politics, wherein youth get news and information through participatory channels, but they also believe that they would benefit from learning on how to judge the credibility and validity of the information of what they find online on online platforms. So it's a two-way process wherein they're getting information as well as checking the validity and reliability of the information that they're getting. When we talk about engaging with media and using new technologies for social action, in youth such as you can participate in such participatory platforms and use new technologies in order to initiate social action. Now, individual citizens and their organizations are using internet to organize themselves, mobilize public opinion by producing radio shows, newsletters, newspapers and magazines, wikis, spoof websites, and sites that expose misinformation. So you as a youth can also do so. There are multiple ways to do so. There are 4 areas that you can explore as citizens to engage for social action. However, first I'll talk about a key example of engaging with social action. The concept of cultural jamming. Now, cultural jamming is a response to the flood of consumer messages that overwhelm us on an everyday basis and also isolate us from our duty as citizens to engage in public life. Therefore, cultural jamming is used in order to fight back the flood of information that we come across. Now, there are 4 areas for citizens to engage for social action. The first is citizen journalism. Now, you as youth have the freedom of expression through citizen journalism to participate in online platforms. User generated content is being increasingly used by people like you and are also being published by media organizations. Therefore, individual citizens are researching extensively, preparing and publishing reports for a mass audience. But the quantity and quality of user generated content that you are putting forward is a good measure of the levels of media and information literacy in the society. That is, if there are more capable citizens in using technology, the more often they'll be able to participate. So it's again a two-way process. Citizen journalists can contribute to news content, whether it's text, audio or visual. Citizen journalists can also share opinions and first-hand experiences. Since your voice is new, you'd be heard also. Citizen journalists can also contribute in collaborating content by digital storytelling and community workshops. And fourthly, citizen journalists can also indulge into interactive journalism, wherein individuals such as you can come together and share the collective experience in blogs and vlogs. The second area of the use of new media technologies for social action is digital storytelling. Now, digital storytelling is extensively being used in the development of identity. It is a technique for exploring identity that has been developed by individuals and organizations in the public and not-for-profit sectors. It is also a vehicle for the voices of underrepresented or marginalized groups of adults, especially women. Digital story is a personal narrative made with digital technologies for public consumption online. Therefore, digital stories first encourage people to conduct research and go in depth about the information they want to gather. Second, foster critical thinking skills because it forces you to think about certain issues that you might have negated or neglected or might not want to go in depth with. The third aspect of digital story is assisting people to communicate effectively by using the right messaging and the right tools to communicate. Fourth is giving people a voice. People especially who belong to marginalized and oppressed communities who were not able to participate earlier. Fifth, encourage people to develop a community and to raise a global awareness amongst them. Sixth, to promote creativity amongst users along with digital and information literacy. The third area for social action by new media technologies is developing intercultural skills. Now, intercultural skills is very important to develop amongst you users because it helps to bridge differences, diffuse conflict, and sets a foundation for peaceful coexistence. Now, intercultural skills are important because there people belong to different varied cultural backgrounds, and unless you imbibe those intercultural skills, you won't be able to initiate social action in a very effective manner. The basis for intercultural competence lies in certain skills. The first one is self-awareness and self-respect by examining the lens through which you view the world. Second is cultural humility and empathy, which you need to accept, which can be inculcated through accepting the ways in which others see the world. Third is engaged listening. In order to participate in authentic intercultural dialogue, you need to listen to people belong to different cultural backgrounds and understand of where they're coming from. Fifth is flexibility. Now, flexibility can be achieved through adapting or adopting temporary shifts in perspective where you understand another person's perspective and are able to imbibe that internally. Sixth is relationship building, which can be forged by lasting cross-cultural personal bonds, and that brings us to the end of intercultural skills. The fourth area for new media technologies for social action amongst users is freeing the mind to use new technologies for social action. Now, freeing the mind is although vague, but it also becomes as the major crux of it, because unless you free the mind, you won't be able to initiate the first three steps or the first three areas wherein you can bring about a social action. The new technologies associated with the internet have created for those with access to it, and they have also created a liberating intellectual and social space in the history of mankind. So you have the best of the technologies and the best of the processes to go through and bring about a social action. However, the government restricts and censors the internet, but people who want to communicate with one another have found ways around government restrictions. This has resulted in more transparency and openness in the government. Freeing the mind also enables you for freedom of speech and action that is now available to millions of people around the world. Also, it is very beneficial to marginalized and oppressed people, because unless you free the mind, you won't be able to imbibe the intercultural skills, go into citizen journalism, or look into other methods for bringing about a social action. Internet also plays a role when it comes to online participatory communication via social media channels. Now, social media applications including social networking sites, blogs, podcasts, content shares have been used extensively to facilitate a participatory cultural experience by several institutions as well as individuals. Some of the examples are collaborative editing of an article on Wikipedia, uploading of images on Facebook and Instagram alike, uploading of videos on YouTube, and the creation of short messages on Twitter. It enables more and more people to become media producers and distributors, along with being consumers already of the platform. Therefore, social networks are contributing to challenge one of the former hegemonies of traditional media institutions. How so? The conception of new news media, which was earlier in the hands of traditional media organizations as the main actors that enhance debate, has now been shifted to social media as well. The selecting of issues on a day-to-day basis, that is agenda setting, which was also being done by traditional media institutions before, is also being undertaken by social media websites such as Twitter, where you can make hashtags viral and set the agenda for the day. You can also facilitate current affairs content, which was earlier being done by traditional media institutions on a more global and national level, but now you as citizens can comment and debate and send out more content which is more localized on online platforms. Therefore, online media and social networks are also being considered forms of participatory culture to a great extent. In a nutshell, online media has the capability to allow users to create and participate in online spaces for various causes, especially when it comes to generating user-generated content. There are also varied forms of participation that we've seen, yet people actively engage, and they have also the agency to participate in civic and political arenas. Now, when we talk about the sociological approach, that is the participatory culture side of it, we'll talk about it in the next video lecture. That's it for now. Thank you.